All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining our session, Studying Abroad on Other UC Programs. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go over the agenda really quickly. So we're going to start off with some introductions. I'm going to talk a little bit about an overview and some of the benefits of participating in other UC programs. We'll talk about the academic aspect of it, financial aid and scholarships, and sort of the funding piece. Then we'll talk about some program highlights from some of the other UC campuses that do offer these faculty-led programs that are open to UCI students. And then we'll finish up with time for talking about deadlines and how to apply. And then we'll have some time at the end for questions. So we'll kick it off with introductions. My name is Ashley Arvanites, and I am the lead advisor for inbound and custom programs. I'm also a UC alum. I went to UC San Diego and received my bachelor's in international studies and a minor in environmental studies. I took advantage of study abroad as much as I could during my undergrad and actually studied abroad on 5 different programs. One of the programs that I participated on was a short-term faculty-led program in Central and Southern Mexico, another short-term faculty-led program in Egypt, and then finally a month-long program that included a little bit of a research and an internship component in Peru. I also participated in 2 independent programs. One was in Firenze and Florence in Italy, and then the other one was in Syracuse in Sicily, also in Italy as well. That was my junior year. I think for me personally, those faculty-led programs really opened up my eyes to study abroad in general and what that meant. It was so much more than your average, direct enroll exchange program where you go to another university abroad and you get to just take classes as you would here on campus. But the short-term faculty-led programs provided me the opportunity to travel with a faculty member, to get to know other students from a variety of different majors from different UC campuses, and to really engage in far more hands-on learning in programs that were designed around the academic content and the places that we were going to be traveling to. I also worked as a former study abroad program coordinator for faculty-led programs at UC Davis. And so I had the opportunity to work with probably close to 25 different programs all over the world and working with faculty to design these programs. So I'm very familiar with them, not only on the participant level, but also on sort of the coordination and the background and how they are handled. And I even had the opportunity to travel with one of these faculty-led programs as in a role that we call an on-site coordinator. And so that is sort of an additional support system for the students and the faculty member when they are traveling on these programs. So let's get into it a little bit deeper in terms of the overview of what are other UC programs, what options, what does that actually mean? So other UC programs, when we talk about it in that sense, they are education abroad programs that are offered by other UC campuses. And as a UCI student, that means that you have access to these other programs that are offered by study abroad offices at other UC campuses. So that's a really great benefit to being a UC student. So on these programs offered by study abroad offices at another UC campus, you're going to have the ability to earn UC units for courses that are offered through another UC campus's course catalog. Another great thing about these is that financial aid applies and travels with you. So if you go abroad on one of these programs, the same aid that you might be able to get taking a program here at UCI, you'd be able to apply to a study abroad program at another UC. And these program types really are going to vary between faculty-led study abroad programs, and they also even have internship programs where you're going to have some oversight, some guidance, some support from a faculty member, both physically on the ground and also in sort of the virtual space. So that's sort of a general overview of what we mean when we say other UC programs. And then I touched on this just a little bit talking about my own personal study abroad experience, but a faculty-led program means that students travel with a faculty member. And that faculty member generally has connections with the specific site where they're taking the students and they're designing the program around. So this means that they have research connections, maybe they've lived there, maybe they have family there and they've spent a lot of time there. And this allows them to provide you a really engaging, active learning environment and to immerse yourself really in that culture and to benefit from using their connections and their insight on the ground. I think another thing that is so great about faculty-led programs, as opposed to sort of your more direct exchange, is that when you're traveling on these programs for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe it's a quarter, you're on a program with another UC faculty member, these faculty members get to know you not only on the academic side, which happens sometimes in some of your classes here, but they can also talk about, they also learn about your communication style, what is your problem solving skills, what's your multicultural competence look like, how well can you adapt to new environments, and these are the kinds of skills that employers are really looking for. So a lot of times students say that their faculty member on their study abroad programs write some of the best letters of recommendation because they can talk about their skill set far beyond the academic content of the course, which sometimes can be more difficult in a lecture style class on campus. I think another thing that one of my old colleagues used to describe faculty-led programs, they used to describe them as a little bit more of like an all-inclusive resort. They've done a lot of the legwork, like what are the academic excursions, what are the cultural excursions, where are you going to live, what meals are already included in for you, what's your public transportation going to look like on site, and those different kinds of things. So they've done a lot of the legwork, and it provides a lot of additional support for students on the ground, which can be especially nice for students that maybe have never traveled before or are looking for a little bit more of a supporting environment. All right, so we're going to transition to talking about some academics. So as I mentioned before, you're going to earn UC units. One thing to keep in mind is that within the UC system, there are some schools that are set on the semester system, which is Berkeley and Merced, and then the remainder of the schools are on the quarter system. And so there is a difference in terms of what is one semester unit and one quarter unit equal. So as you can see here, one semester unit is actually going to equal 1.5 quarter units because semesters are longer, right? They're like a quarter and a half compared to our 3/4 system here at UCI. These courses that you can take on these other UC faculty-led programs, they can count for your major, minor, GE, or other graduation requirements. And one really nice aspect of these programs is they often provide the syllabus in advance. And that allows students at other UC campuses to take that syllabus and bring it to their department, bring it to their academic counselors, and in advance to figure out what might this count for? Is there a direct equivalent of the course? Maybe it can count for an upper division elective in your major. So there's a lot of flexibility there and some legwork that can be done in advance for you to determine what those courses you're going to take that are out of another UC's catalog could actually apply for in your specific sort of graduation plan. All right, now we're going to talk about financial aid and scholarship. Again, I already mentioned this, but I want to reiterate it. Financial aid applies. So what you can do if you are a financial aid recipient is that you can share the program costs that are usually posted on all of the program web pages. You can share that with the financial aid office here at UCI, and they can review the information and estimate what your aid package would look like if you were to participate on any one of the programs that you find that you're interested in, which is really, really great. One thing I do want to mention is a lot of these programs are offered in the summer, which timing wise can work really well for a lot of students depending on their involvement, sort of how strict their academic plan is, if there's courses they have to take in sequence. But in general, there is less financial aid available in the summer, but that would apply the same as if you were going to be taking summer session classes here at UCI, right? There's less aid available in the summer in general. One other thing to keep in mind, because a lot of these programs are going to be in the summer, in order to maintain full-time student status, which is required to be eligible for financial aid, you have to enroll in at least 6 units. And most of the other campuses, they design their programs with this in mind. Most of them are going to be about 8 units for a lot of their summer programs because they want to ensure that you still have the ability to have access to financial aid. In addition to financial aid, there's also scholarships. There's some that are available through UCI. There's some that are available through other campuses that are open to visiting UC students, as well as outside organizations like the Freeman Asia Scholarship, like the Gilman Scholarship. There's a ton of different scholarships available. There's a section on our website if you want to learn more about scholarships in general. Another thing I did want to mention while we're talking a little bit about finances is that many of the programs that are offered by other UCs, they fill on a first completed, first reserve basis, which means if there's 30 spots in the program, the first 30 students that submit a complete application and are eligible get to go on the program. So it's like signing up for a class. The sort of flip side of that is that there are also deposits in order to be able to save your spot in the program. Those deposits are going to vary program, or they're going to vary campus by campus, but that's just something I want to mention to keep in mind, is that there may be non-refundable deposits to save your spot because they are on a first completed, first reserve basis. So something else to keep in mind and to sort of incorporate in terms of your academic plan. That deposit usually will go into covering the overall total program costs as well. And you would potentially lose that deposit if you were to apply, pay, and then you changed your mind and didn't want to go on the program anymore. Another thing which applies to all study abroad programs is that generally there is a fee liability timeline, which means the closer to your departure date you get, the more that you may owe if you were to cancel and not participate in the program. So again, as you're exploring, as you're looking at your options, I encourage you to keep an eye on what those fee liability timelines are so that you can plan accordingly. And if it doesn't make sense, if you're not sure, it doesn't make, you don't want to necessarily lose that deposit or owe additional money if you were to cancel later on. So another thing just to sort of keep in mind, because it does vary from how the UC EAP programs operate a little bit. All right, we'll take a quick little pause. Are there any questions? You can feel free to unmute yourself for a relatively small group, or if you want to type it in the chat, sort of any questions on the information that I've gone over at this point, just sort of our general overview before we get into too many of the program highlights here. Okay, if they do come in, feel free to add them to the chat. We'll come back and we can answer them as they come in. So we're going to go over and we're going to look at each of the different UC campuses that offer programs to other UC students. And then I've gone through and just picked a couple of ones that highlight sort of the range of different program opportunities that are available based on location, subject matter, duration, type of experience. And so I will be sharing these slides so you can access all of these hyperlinks if any of these jump out to you as well. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at some of the UC Berkeley study abroad programs. And as you can see, there's a screenshot on the right of, they have a search tool where you can filter by term, by subject area, by language of instruction. And some of the ones that I thought were really unique here was an island sustainability program, and that one is in French Polynesia, and that is on one of their research centers. Also, they have a program on sports history and cultural identity in Dublin, Ireland. They have a Portuguese literature and translation program that takes place in Portugal in the summer. They also offer global internships. They offer those all around the world, as well as have some domestic locations. And so depending on what you're interested in, if there's certain industries or parts of the country that you've always wanted to explore, to live in, to have the opportunity to work in, I recommend that you take a look at some of those different global internships. They also have virtual global internships where you have the opportunity to intern remotely for a company that may be based in Asia, Europe, domestically here in the US, Latin America, or South America as well. And those can be really great opportunities that don't involve a lot of physical travel, which sometimes can cut down on the overall program costs, but still get you some of those experiences and to learn what it's like to work in a certain field or in a specific region of the world. Maybe it's somewhere you've always wanted to explore, you think your career might take you later on. It can be a really great opportunity as well. Now we're going to move on to UC Davis. So UC Davis offers a number of different programs. They have summer internship programs, summer abroad programs, and they also have quarter abroad programs. So UC Davis is the only one that offers quarter abroad programs. Some of their summer internships that I wanted to highlight is that they do have psychology internships, or actually all three, in New Zealand, Spain, and the UK. They have a number of global health internships for any of you who are thinking about, who are pre-health or considering the medical field in your future. They have them all over the world. Here's a couple of highlights here. They have 2 programs in Bolivia, 1 in Ghana, the Philippines, a couple of programs in South Africa. And they also have virtual summer internships in a variety of different fields with locations all around the globe. Their summer abroad programs, they have a pretty robust portfolio of those as well. And they range from everything from business to biology to history to anthropology to engineering. So depending on what you're looking for, I recommend you take a look at some of those summer abroad programs. Most of those programs are 4 to 5 weeks and take place either during summer session 1 or summer session 2. I've highlighted a couple here as well. Quarter abroad, I think they offer about 6 different programs. They have some in the fall and some in the spring quarter. One that it tends to be pretty popular is at the London School of Economics, focusing on political science in the UK. All right, now we're going to take a look at UCLA's, their travel study program. So they have programs available for you all over the globe. Once again, so we're looking, there's some Spanish language courses in Mexico. There's some on global governance and human rights in the Netherlands. There's business programs. There's also material science and engineering in Cyprus, looking at ancient technology, materials, and forensic. And then in Singapore, there's a program on understanding economics through country differences. All right, it looks like I think we have about 2 more of these to go through. So I'm just going through them really quickly, but if there's any you're interested in, you can revisit, and then there's links so you can access the full list of programs available at all the different campuses. So at UC San Diego, they have global seminars programs that take place during the summer. And I've highlighted a range here that you have programs in Latin America, you have programs in, Central America, Europe, programs in Greece, everything from language and culture to theater and design to politics. And then we're looking at some coastal ecology in Costa Rica as well. All right, and we're going to also take a look at UC Santa Cruz. They also have some global seminars programs. And as you can see, there's a wide range of subject areas, as well as destinations around the globe in Europe, in Latin America, and Asia. For their global seminars program, traveling with a faculty member. And there is also global internships. They have virtual programs with internships available in 30 different industries. And they also have in-person internships. One specifically I'm highlighting here is for psychology and cog-sci internships. And they have 2 different locations. It can be in Barcelona in Spain or in Lisbon in Portugal. And I believe, I was like, there should also be a link to a website that I can sort of preview with everyone as well, that shows you what are all of the programs offered during the summer by all of the UC campuses. So that's another really great resource that I'll take a moment to highlight and share that with all of you once we finish with the presentation and we talk a little bit more about some of the questions. So hopefully this gives you a really good idea of what the programs are and what they're like. And then maybe there's something that sort of sparked your interest. And if not, if I didn't pull a program that you're interested in specifically, feel free to take some time, explore some of those as well. So the last thing that we're really going to be spending any time on here is looking at deadlines and how to apply. So on the right-hand side, you'll see that I've highlighted the different program deadlines for programs at each one of these different UC campuses. And sometimes they're going to vary based on the program type, right? The internship programs versus the summer abroad versus virtual programs. And as you can see, a lot of those programs, their deadlines are going to be late February, early March. A lot of them may also be up until April 1st. I did want to also mention that UC Riverside does also offer faculty-led programs, but unfortunately their deadline passed yesterday. But if you're not looking to study abroad for this summer, that may be something you might want to look into in the future to see if there's a program aligned with your individual sort of interests and goals. So now that we know when those deadlines are, which means we have a couple of weeks for most of those programs, if not more, you're going to apply based on the information on each of those other UC program pages specific to your program. So you're going to apply directly to the other UC programs. That's one piece of it, right? They may have different requirements that are going to ask you to upload a passport or a copy of a receipt that you've applied for a passport. There may be a health clearance involved. They may ask for copies of transcripts. If you're looking for internships, they may want a copy of your resume. So make sure you spend some time getting familiar with what the different application requirements are. The other sort of aspect of the application process is not only do you need to apply directly with that other UC program, but you also are going to need to log into UCI Abroad, and you're going to need to apply for the program in our system. And when I say apply, it's a loose term. It basically notifies us that you're going to participate in this program, and it allows us to link your experience at another UC to your UCI record and to notify financial aid and all the other offices that you are participating in this program. Because there are so many other UC programs, not all of those applications have been pre-created in UCI Abroad. If you log into UCI Abroad, you complete your profile and you're searching for the applications for your program and you don't see it, all you would need to do is you need to email studyabroad@uci.edu and ask them to add the application for you. It's a pretty quick process, and the application is very it's very simple. It just lets us know what you're participating in with some of the general basics. So I'll add that to the slide information before I send that out, but that is something to keep in mind, that you will need to apply in both of those places, but the UCI Abroad one is pretty straightforward. The deadlines in order to apply in UCI Abroad specifically for summer, fall, and year-long programs starting in 2022 is April 1st. So even if the other UC programs deadlines may be earlier, you will need to make sure that you apply in UCI Abroad before that April 1st deadline. If you are looking at winter and spring programs, that has a much later date, and it will be take place in the fall on October 15th. As I mentioned, first completed, first reserve programs often do have a non-refundable deposit. So keep that in mind as you're making your program selections, so that you aren't losing any funds if you were to change your mind or not able to participate in a program. All right. I think that opens it up here. I have a couple of different QR codes here on the screen for you if you're interested in completing your UCI Abroad profile. That actually allows us to learn a little bit more about your interests, your goals for study abroad, and then we can send specific information for programs that may be of interest to you. We can invite you to info sessions related to financial aid or any other concerns that you may have about the process, or other ways that we can support you. If you're really not sure about how to get started, you can also book an advising appointment. Those take place both in person and virtually. So you can scan that QR code and you can book that appointment with one of our peer advisors, and they can help you out anywhere along the way from, program exploration all the way through, you're applying in the system and you're preparing to go abroad. You can also get connected with us in a couple of other ways. We're located in the Student Services 2 building, which is across the way from the bookstore, and we're in Suite 1100. You can also send us an email. There's our email address there and our phone number. And if you would like, you can also follow us on social media at UCI Abroad. We have started back up our Tuesday walk-in hours that take place from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Tuesday. So you don't have to have an appointment if you just want to come by and chat with someone. All right, let's open it up for questions really quickly, and then I will go ahead and I'll pull up on another screen so we can take a look at the all UC programs that are available in the summer, so you can take a look at that. All right, I don't see any questions. If you do have any that come through, let me know and we will answer those for you. So here is the link that I was talking about to all other UC Summer Abroad programs. So you can take a look. This one is, the page is managed by UC Davis, but they're getting information from all the different UC campuses. And so as you can see, if there's a specific region of the world you would like to explore, that's how they're organized. So if you wanted to look at Asia and Oceania, you can see all of the various different programs that are available in that region and at which UC campus. If you were to click on one of these programs, let's see, I guess since we're a small group, does anybody want to share their major, and we can see if we can find a program for you? You can share it either in the chat. Biosci education. All right, so let's see, biosci, just from my own personal knowledge, I know that there's a couple of different biosci programs available through UC Davis. I used to work on a couple of those different programs, but if we look at this one, for example, if you click on the link, it will take you to this program, and this is a microbio program. And so you're going to travel with the faculty member from the biosci department. You're going to have the opportunity to explore all of the historic laboratories, the science that went into creating the microscope, and all of the things that you're going, sort of gives you some additional context to the basics that you may learn also in sort of a general microbiome class. Another thing that's really nice about how these UC programs are organized is there's sort of a general overview. You also have the opportunity, if you want to learn more, some programs may have an information session scheduled, or they might even have recordings of previous information sessions on their website that you can access there. They go through some program highlights. You can look at enrollments and deadlines, financial aid, and scholarships. As I mentioned too, you can look at what's involved in the courses that you're actually going to be taking abroad. And so you can access the syllabus, you can see how is the class organized, what are the prerequisites, and it's going to go over some of these details. And so that syllabus is what I was talking about when I said you can take it to your academic counselor in your department and say, you know, hey, if I were going to participate in this program, what would I get credit for? Could it fulfill a certain requirement that I have to take before graduation? You can learn a little bit more about the instructor that's leading the specific program. And if they, they'll often talk a lot about their experience on site, how they designed the program as well. The on-sites tab specifically for the UC Davis program is going to talk about all of those details. Where are you going to be staying? What are you going to be eating? What other activities and excursions are included, both academic and cultural? And then what are some of the basics, like what language do they speak there? What's the currency, right? How do we, what's it actually like to live in Belgium for this particular program? And then the costs. So as I mentioned also, you can take a copy, take a screenshot, print, take a PDF of a page, and you can take a look at what the cost of participating in the program is. You can share that with financial aid, and they can give you an estimate of what your aid package might look like if you were to participate in the program. One thing I will mention as well for summer abroad, so the course fee, this per unit fee is going to be the same across all UC campuses, regardless of which one you're at, right? And that is the same per unit fee that you would pay if you were going to stay here on campus taking classes at UCI during summer session. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at the overall cost, that chunk would be the same if you were to take courses here or if you're going to take those courses abroad. And then there's some additional travel details that talks a little bit about what's the pre-departure orientation, what does travel look like on site, what are the entry requirements, both related to immigration and related to COVID, both understanding that that's a pretty fluid situation, and that these offices are always monitoring the situation and will keep students most up to date, because we know that some of those requirements and policies and regulations can change pretty quickly. So that gives you like a general overview of sort of what to expect for some of these various different programs that are offered through some other UCs. Let's see, if we were to go back to that other UC page, that'll give you everything, all over the globe, including domestic programs and our virtual programs too. And on this page as well, there's sort of hyperlinks to all of the different UC campuses and their education abroad offices. All right, I think that's it for the formal presentation. Are there any other questions? Anything else I can answer for all of you? All right, looks like there is a question. It says, I have a question. I want to study abroad in my junior year. So you're 2 years from now. Great. I'm so glad you're planning ahead. That's wonderful. That means there's even more options that'll be available to you. But your concern is financial aid. So your question is, when should I apply and who should I discuss the monetary aid? So in general, we tell students that looking, a year to a year and a half in advance is good for looking at study abroad programs. Application deadlines are going to vary by program type, program term, and who is offering the program. If it's a program through another UC campus, as you saw on one of those slides, all the different UC campuses have different deadlines. But a good rule of thumb is that if you're, making some of those plans 9 months to a year in advance, that should generally allow you access to all of the study abroad programs that you're interested in. If you were interested in starting that conversation early, what you could do is you can take one of the program budgets and you could reach out to the financial aid office and say, hey, if I were going to participate in this program, what would my aid package look like? And they might be able to, they can provide you with an estimate of what it would look like. And so at least you would have a ballpark idea if it makes sense for you to study abroad in the summer. Or if you are open and interested in studying abroad during the academic year, knowing that there is more aid available for students during the academic year. So I would recommend completing your UCI abroad profile. That's a really great way that we can sort of keep you in touch in the loop. And then as soon as you're ready to start exploring programs, we can start that process with you, and then sort of walk you through sort of the applications and help you, make those decisions based on what makes the most sense for your goals and sort of your preferences, as well as keeping in mind those financial considerations. One other thing that I will mention is that there are other parts of the world where it's far more affordable to live than in Southern California. So there are actually programs that you can save money by studying abroad. I personally, living in La Jolla near UC San Diego, was pretty expensive. So I actually saved money when I lived abroad in Italy for a year. And I was in, apartments. I had 5 different, roommates or housemates in those apartments. And it was far more affordable than it was for me to stay. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're looking at the overall costs. Compare the costs of what does it cost to stay for summer session at UCI versus one of these study abroad programs, or for a semester long program versus missing a quarter here at UCI. So instead of just looking at sort of that sticker price, keep in mind and try to compare the overall cost of those programs as they relate to staying on campus.